From here, now that everything in the model is separated into different groups, we're going to add some more stuff.
Take the rectangle tool and come up to the front of the building here. You can use the rectangle tool to draw in a little window. And if you want to, you can type in a dimension for that window, maybe something like, I don't know, 4 feet, 3 feet, and hit enter. Then you can use the offset tool to offset the edges of that window. You can offset those edges in maybe 3 inches and hit enter. The offset tool, remember, if you double click, you can repeat the last offset distance. So double click for another offset. Now I can take push pull, push back the glass, push back the frame, maybe pull out the trim. So not with any style points here, but just kind of a real quick way to mock up a window here in SketchUp. And now if I take the select tool, I can select that window. So the same kind of thing we were doing earlier. We just want to get a really precise view. Maybe start by looking out at the front of the window, orbit around so that you're looking down on top of it. If you go into X-ray view mode, you can see any edges or surfaces that might be hidden back behind that window, and then take the select tool and drag a big old selection box around that window to get the entire thing selected. Once that window is selected, you can right click on it, and this time you'll see the option for Make Component. Select the option for Make Component, and the component dialog box comes up. The first option there is to give it a name. So you can type in a name. You can type in window. Down below that option is a description field. So you could type in a description here. Pretty much whatever works for you. You could type in maybe the SKU number. You can type in the price. You can type in how many windows. So I'm just going to type in 4 foot by 3 foot standard frame window. Down below that, there's a little drop-down menu that says Alignment Glue To. Now, if we twirl that menu down, you'll see that in SketchUp you have an option to assign a gluing plane to a component. Now, don't worry, we're going to talk a little bit more about what exactly that means in just a second. But for now, just kind of take note that you can glue your components to any type of surface. We've got any, none, horizontal, vertical, and sloped. So we're going to select the option for any, but just know that you can come in and be specific about the type of gluing plane that you can assign your components to. And again, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second. So select the option for any. Down below that, there are a couple of checkboxes. One says Cut Opening, and the other says Replace Selection with Component. So if both of those are checked and everything else looks good, go ahead and click the little button there that says Create. I'm going to turn X-ray mode off, and you can see here that the window is now selected. It's all one component. If I click off in white space to deselect that window, now I can come back and select the entire window just by clicking on it once. Just click on it once to select the entire window. It's sort of its own thing. It's its own little object. And we can create a copy of that window using just the standard Edit, Copy. You can see the keyboard shortcut there on a PC is Control-C. On a Mac, it would be Command-C or Apple-C. So we've got a copy of that window now attached to the clipboard. And we can go up to Edit, Paste, or Control-V or Apple-V on a Mac to paste a copy of that window down into the model. So when you click Paste, you've got a copy of that window attached to the cursor, and you can move that window around in the model, and it'll glue to any type of surface. That's what that flip-flopping around is. It's kind of flipping up, flipping to the side, flipping onto a sloped surface. It's trying to glue itself to a surface. So if we just come over next to the window that we've already got, you can click to set it down.
At this point, one of the most common questions that we get. Thanks, Alex. Thank the prop department for this one. So how do you get those windows lined up? Great question. Take a look at that now.
If you take the tape measure tool, I'm actually going to undo back here to before I pasted the window. If I take the tape measure tool, I can click on the edge of the building, just like before, and set a construction line. And here you can be specific about the construction line. You could set it maybe at a sill height of 30 inches. Just type in 30 and hit enter. Or if I undo back, you can use the tape measure tool from an edge to go over and reference another point or edge in the model. You can see I can just zoom in and click right on the inside corner of the window. Really important here that if you're working in your model and you decide to do this, you want to grab the inside corner, not the outside corner, but the inside corner. Click on that corner and you can set a construction line right down in line with the existing window. Now when you go to Edit, Paste, you can actually select the option to paste that window right down on the exact same construction line. You see, you just want to find the insertion point for the window and get where that insertion point lands right on the construction line. Now you can do this as many times as you want to, just Control V or Apple V, just keep hitting that and you can paste in a bunch of copies of the window. So that's one way to do it. If I undo back a couple of steps, there's another way. And those of you from the level 1 DVD will remember we did this with a fence. Well, the same kind of deal with a window. And I'm actually going to set up a couple of more dimensions here that are going to help me just be sort of accurate about the way that we're setting up this array of windows. So again, with the tape measure tool, I can create a construction line from the vertical edge in on the wall. I'm going to give that a dimension of 12 inches and hit enter. And then from the other edge as well, bring a construction line in, type in 12 and hit enter. So I've got a sill height, and then I've got those windows in 12 inches from either side. First thing I'm going to do is take the move tool and move that first window over to the intersection between those two construction lines. Now over on the other side of the window, I can take the move tool and press or hold down on the control key on a PC, or again the option key on a Mac. When you press the control key or the option key on a Mac, you'll see again that little plus symbol pop up next to the move cursor. That plus symbol indicates you're going to make a copy. And here, before you make the copy, you just want to make sure that you pick a point on the window that's going to enable you to do a precise movement. Again, remember in SketchUp, you're going to move precisely from one point in the model over to another point in the model. So when we move this window over to the other side, we want to be able to reference this bottom right corner. So press the control key, click on that bottom right corner, come over to the intersection between these construction lines. And you've got two windows in the model, evenly spaced from the ends of the wall. And now you can just type in an array for in between. If you type in 4 and then divided by 4/ and hit enter, now you get 5 evenly spaced windows, 4 equal spaces. So by typing in 4 divided by, you get 4 equal spaces in between those 5 windows. You could change this. You could type in 3 divided by and hit enter, or you could type in 2 divided by and hit enter. You can keep adjusting that array, and I think 4 looks pretty good. Nice full wall of windows, so I'm going to leave it at that. 4 divided by and hit enter. Now, the coolest part about gluing is that any changes that you decide to make to this wall, those windows are glued to this wall. Those windows aren't going anywhere. They're their own separate objects, but they are glued or stuck to that wall. Another thing that happens though is that those windows, if you try to move them, you're only able to move them in line with that wall. So that's what gluing really is. Gluing is an object's ability to attach itself or stick itself or glue itself to a particular surface in the model. So if anything happens, if that surface moves, the windows come with it. If the windows move, they can only move in line with the surface that they're glued to.